what separated me from Larry Bird and Magic Johnson was, they had championships to back their individual accolades. So, I mean, that drove me more so than anything. Here I'm going against one of the greatest players in the game, and I want to beat him.
In order to be the best, you gotta beat the best. That was Michael Jordan's mindset every time he played against the greatest legends of the game. One by one, he exerted his dominance each and every time. It wasn't just about winning, but outperforming the best competition that exists for your time. When it was all said and done, he left no doubts on who was truly the greatest ever. The two players that he had his eyes on were Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. They were the standard, and he worked tirelessly to jump over the bar that they placed. With Larry Bird, he knew his team wasn't ready to overcome the depth and experience the Celtics had. They were already established, while the Bulls were still trying to find their way. But that didn't stop Jordan from making a statement. There were 3 games where he scored 50 points or more against his rival. There were 7 additional games where he scored at least 40 points. In 9 out of those 10 games, he shot over 50% from the field. But the biggest statement came when the lights shined the brightest. It was the 1986 playoffs. The Boston Celtics won 67 games. They lost once at home all season long, and they were the #1 rated defense in the league. Meanwhile, the Bulls won 30 games. They struggled so much without their young leader. He played all but 18 games, recovering from a broken foot. No one thought they had a chance, except for one person. He went on to have the highest scoring playoff game in NBA history. Against the best team, at the toughest place to play in, he scored 63 points on 54% shooting. He also added 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. He wasn't just trying to prove that he was the best scorer, but the best player. The MVP of the league couldn't help but admire what he was watching. After barely escaping victory, he said this: "He is the most exciting, most awesome player in the game. I didn't think anyone was capable of doing what Michael has done against us in the past 2 games. He then said these famous words: "That was God disguised as Michael Jordan." He won the battle, but not the war. If he had better teammates, the ending could have gone much different. Unfortunately, he never had the opportunity to face his rival when his team was at their best. But for Magic Johnson, he found the perfect way to begin his GOAT trajectory, being the greatest point guard and the most accomplished player of the 80s in the finals. This was a player that won 3 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, and 5 championships. This was his moment to beat the best. But Michael wasn't just trying to simply win the series, he was trying to make a whole other statement. For years, he was forced to hear the stigma that he was a ball hog, that he wanted to win games by himself. What better time to debunk those criticisms against the greatest point guard? For the series, he averaged 11.4 assists per game. Since 1960, that is the highest assist per game average in the finals by any player not named Magic Johnson. He gave the greatest Magic Johnson impression in the biggest stage that any player has done. But that's not all that he did. He also added 31.2 points on 56% shooting, 6.6 rebounds, 2.8 steals, and 1.4 steals per game. Once again, he made it abundantly clear that he was much more than just a great scorer. For Magic Johnson, it was obvious what the message was.
Everybody knew that it was coming. It's just when. When was he going to be ready to receive it and take it? And boy, did he receive it and take it. I mean, he came up and snatched it. Here, give it here, Magic. It's my turn now.
It was an incredibly satisfying victory for MJ. The only way it could have been sweeter is if they still had their captain. He would have loved to defeat the greatest point guard and the greatest center in the same series, but he retired 2 years too early. This was another player that he had tremendous respect for. There is no one who had a more accomplished basketball career. If he wanted to be considered the greatest, he knew he had to first surpass him. Before Kareem hanged it up for good, Jordan left the ultimate retirement gift. In his final game in Chicago, he recorded the highest scoring game against either Kareem or Magic. He scored 42 points on 48% shooting. He also added 8 assists, 7 rebounds, and 4 steals. But more importantly, they ended the game with a victory. In fact, in his last 3 meetings against Kareem, the Bulls won. You can say that this was another message that he sent. Whether Magic had his captain or not, they were going to have their hands full trying to stop him. Although those three players set the ultimate standard, he quickly learned that he needed to defeat other legendary players first. That includes one of the greatest point guards of all time, Isiah Thomas. He was a leader of one of the deepest, most talented, and toughest teams the league has ever seen. The Detroit Pistons were his biggest roadblock to achieving his goals. He wanted to make it abundantly clear that he had no fear, driving straight to the belly of the beast. There is no greater example than what he did on their home floor in 1987. He exploded for 61 points on 56% shooting. He did that against a team that supposedly created an entire defensive scheme just to stop him. The Jordan rule still wasn't going to solve the problem that Michael was on offense. No one could stop him, especially during this season. He had 2 60-point games and 6 other 50-point games. Of all his scoring extravaganzas, that was his favorite game. Why was that? He mentioned 2 reasons. The first one was because they won. For the second reason, he said something very interesting. Because I switched onto Adrian Dantley in the last few minutes, stole the ball 3 times, and held him without a basket. A victory for defense. End of quote. He was constantly proving that there was much more to him than just scoring. Along with his 61 points, he added 3 steals and 3 blocks. Trust me, this performance wasn't an outlier. For his career against Isiah Thomas, he added a 59-point performance in 9 other 40-point games. From an individual standpoint, he had no problem asserting his will against this team. However, his greatness alone wasn't enough to defeat a historic team like this in the playoffs. In 1988 and 1989, the Bulls weren't ready to take that next step. But in 1990, his teammates started maturing. Phil Jackson was named coach, and he was going to make the most of their talents. They faced their bitter rivals for the 3rd straight year in the playoffs, and it was obvious that this was a different team. They played them tough and forced to Game 7. In the biggest game of their careers, only one person showed up. Michael Jordan did everything he could to keep his team in the game. He had 31 points on 48% shooting, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds. The rest of his teammates combined for 15 of 63 from the field, which is 23.8%. They failed him, and he suffered the most crushing defeat of his basketball career. At this moment, he had to decide how he was going to defeat this team. Would he go to the front office and force a trade? Would he force him to trade his teammates and give him more help? None of the above. He was determined to defeat the Pistons with the team he was given. Instead of pointing fingers and placing the blame on others, he looked inward and realized he also needed to make changes.
I felt that we weren't going to lose out on this opportunity in terms of, my leadership and what I had to do on the basketball court. I was going to do whatever it had to do to get us a championship. If you need something done, I do it. Defense, passing, scoring, whatever. That was a challenge that I took.
He learned the most valuable lesson in winning. Through failure, he improved on the intangibles of the game. This is what made him and his team unstoppable. When they faced the Pistons in the 1991 playoffs, they were ready to finally conquer the beast. For the series, Jordan didn't score over 40 points once. Instead, he put the lessons he learned into practice and didn't carry the entire load himself. This allowed the Bulls to sweep the Pistons, leaving a dagger in their hearts that they're still feeling to this day. After winning his first title, he conquered all the legends who came before him. Now it was about keeping what was rightfully his. Learning how to climb the mountain is one thing, but learning how to defend your title is another. That is especially tough when everyone gives you their best every game, and the best players of the 90s were looking to dethrone him. Take for example, Charles Barkley in 1993. He believed that if he had the same talent as Jordan, he would be the one to defeat him. His wish finally came true when he was traded to the Phoenix Suns. He led them to the best record and was awarded the MVP. If he beat Jordan in the finals and won the championship, he knew what the narrative would be. Charles Barkley would be considered the best player in the world. This is when Michael raised his game to a level never before seen in the finals. He averaged a record-breaking stat line of 41 points per game on 51% shooting. He also added 8.5 rebounds, 6.3 assists, and 1.7 steals per game. The reality is that the Phoenix Suns were just as good as his team, but when Jordan plays like that, they are impossible to beat. It forced Charles to come to this harsh realization.
Get to the finals, and I said, I get the chance to prove my point. And I'll tell you, Sean, that's the first time in my life I felt like, I said, damn, that guy's better at basketball than me.
What a coincidence that something very similar happened in 1997. This time, the league voters decided to award Karl Malone the MVP. It was a highly controversial decision. But if the Utah Jazz found a way to defeat Chicago in the finals, the media would be proven right. This was something that he would never allow. In the very first game, Malone had the perfect opportunity to steal Game 1. He had a chance to give his team a 2-point lead and he was at the free throw line, but he missed both. In the following possession, Michael Jordan responded in the most legendary way. He made the buzzer-beating shot. It is still the last one that we've seen in the finals. But he wasn't done. There was Game 5, or what is famously known as the flu game. You could tell that he was out of it right from the start. He was lacking energy and the Bulls were falling behind. But in the fourth quarter, he was as clutch as ever. He ended up scoring 15 points on 60% shooting in the final period. That includes making this three-pointer with 25 seconds left that gave them the lead and won the game. Then in Game 6, he provided a third clutch play in the finals. This time, he provided the title-winning assist to Steve Kerr. This is what Jordan did every time he was challenged by a worthy opponent. He raised his game to historic levels, whether it was breaking scoring records for the finals or providing the most clutch finals series ever. Speaking of clutch, we have the 1998 finals. Karl Malone was out for revenge, and he had the Bulls right where he wanted them. They're on the road in Game 6, and the Bulls were on their last legs. Jordan looked exhausted from carrying the load because Scottie Pippen was ailing with a sore back. It was up to Michael to do everything. He proceeded to score half of the team's points for the game, and when it was time to deliver a championship, he used whatever gas that was left in the tank to drag his team past the finish line. It was the greatest finish that we've ever seen from a player. On both sides of the floor, he made big plays to put his team in a position to win. It all culminated when he made the title-winning shot after freeing himself from Byron Russell. That is how he ended his career in Chicago. There were no more rivals to dethrone, and there was nothing left to prove. He retired by winning 6 championships the hard way. He didn't take shortcuts, and he didn't expect more help to beat the best. He figured out how to beat his biggest rivals, and that helped shape the greatest player in league history. But what about you all? Which of these moments impressed you the most? Who do you think was his greatest competition? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.